Australia is about to experience one of the most extensive heat waves on record, with large parts of the country to bake in 45-degree temperatures for more than a week.
Weather records are being broken as eastern Australia bakes in extreme heat. Hobart hit an all-time high today of 41.8 degrees. And there are reports tonight of several homes destroyed by bushfires in Tasmania.
Emergency crews across the state were on red alert as the mercury surged past 45 degrees, making today one of the hottest in Adelaide's history.
There were too many hotspots to count across Australia. 48 in Port Augusta. Adelaide has only hit 44 three times in the last century. In Victoria, Hopetoun boiled at 44 degrees. New South Wales peaked at 45.
48 degrees at Woodner on Eyre Peninsula.
In Queensland, Birdsville reached 47 degrees.
Up on a tin roof, the temperature was closer to 55 degrees.
Massive wildfires are scorching parts of the Australian island state of Tasmania. Thousands of people have fled the flames.
More than 40 fires are still burning across Tasmania after a heat wave with temperatures up to 40 degrees hit the Australian island state.
A tsunami warning is in effect after a massive 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit off the southern coast of Alaska. Happened around 4 a.m. Eastern this morning. Officials urge anyone in the warning area to move inland and find higher ground.
Australia's record-breaking heat wave is continuing to fuel outbreaks of wildfires across scores of thousands of hectares in the southeast of the country.
The pictures coming out of Australia tonight are apocalyptic. Flames devouring homes, huge black and brown blossoms of smoke. It's so hot the government had to change its forecast maps, adding new shades of purple for temperatures possibly hitting 130 degrees. Scenes like this are becoming more common. The entire planet has gotten hotter in recent decades.
The Australian Bureau of Meteorology is forecasting 54 degrees Celsius in central Australia for next Monday.
Jerusalem has virtually ground to a standstill after Israel's worst snowstorm for 20 years. Up to 15 centimetres fell overnight, forcing public transport and schools to shut down. There's been severe weather too in the West Bank, where hail, snow and heavy rain brought flooding and landslides. 4 Palestinians died, and dozens of houses were flooded in the Gaza Strip. In the north of Israel, along the border with Lebanon, much of the Galilee region was paralysed by the rare wintry conditions, with 30 centimetres of snow reported in the city of Safed.
A cyclone is growing in force and heading for the north coast of WA. Tropical cyclone Narelle is now Category 3 and should be Category 4 when it comes close to land on Friday.
Workers have also been evacuated from oil rigs off the coast, and if you take a look at these photographs, it's probably not surprising. These were taken by a tugboat operator and show a massive storm bearing down on the coast. But this was on Wednesday, well before the cyclone was anywhere near those oil fields.
Tropical cyclone Narelle has intensified as it continues to move towards WA's northwest. There's a cyclone warning in place for several communities, including Exmouth.
Snow in Southern California.
This is not what Southern California generally looks like. A major highway shut down thanks to blankets of blowing snow. Thousands of cars and semis were immobilized for hours, stuck on a snowbound section of I-5 just outside Los Angeles overnight. With that wicked wind and snow comes killer cold. Farmers in California scrambled to protect precious crops as temperatures plunged toward record lows in the 30s.
In parts of Colorado, Wyoming, where places are seeing not only blizzard conditions, but also big dust storms.
Roads in Australia melt as record temperatures hit the outback.
Outback Queensland towns have smashed temperature records for a second day in a row. We're close to 50 degrees.
There are already more than 100 wildfires out of control. These are the most catastrophic conditions for fire in Australia in living memory.
What seems to be a backwards weather picture, freezing in the southwest, record warmth across much of the east.
It's a tale of two temperatures, warm in the east and rare winter chill in the west. Overnight, temperatures again fell into the 30s in Southern California.
Government climatologists reporting the biggest Arctic ice melt in history.
Arctic sea ice, it has melted to the smallest amount ever we've ever seen by satellite. NASA and NOAA got together and said, what do we think? What's going on here?
Along the California coast, the ocean is expected to rise another 3 to 5 feet by the end of the century. 3.5 million Californians live within 3 feet of sea level.
Today, we learned some facts about how this Earth is changing and how fast. New research concludes that Antarctica is melting.
Floodwaters are covering large areas of central and southern Indiana after days of heavy rain.
Thousands of fish washed ashore on Pawleys Island today.
The dead menhaden fish stretching 1.5 miles long.
Apparently, you can smell those decomposing fish from about a mile away.
Jakarta, the capital of Southeast Asia's largest economy, today brought to its knees.
Deadly flooding has submerged Jakarta, paralyzing the Indonesian capital. At least 7 people have been killed in the rising waters triggered by heavy monsoon rains, with water levels up to 6.5 feet in some places.
Officials have warned that over the next few days, the rains will continue to increase.
A city of more than 10 million people has come to a standstill.
Fire continues to rage. Just the scope and the size of that fire, it's a 5-kilometre fire front.
Firefighters say they've been surprised by the ferocity of a large bushfire that's burning out of control east of Melbourne.
The warnings for some significant snowfall are already in place, with a rarely issued red warning being given out for parts of Wales.
Heathrow, the world's busiest airport, was again hit with flight cancellations, stranding thousands. It's the same story in Paris. Heavy snow has also fallen in Poland. Croatia's been struggling with a blizzard all week, affecting 11 major cities and causing transport chaos.
Residents in Western Cape York communities are on alert tonight after a tropical low intensified into a Category 1 cyclone a short time ago. Cyclone Oswald is expected to make landfall before midnight. North Queensland also prepares for torrential rain over the coming days.
Freezing temperatures and heavy snow continue to batter parts of Europe, causing further travel chaos. At Frankfurt Airport, 27% of flights were cancelled after a bout of fresh snow following freezing rain on Monday. Météo France has issued orange alerts for Paris. Charles de Gaulle Airport was similarly hit, with mostly short-haul services being affected.
We begin with one of the worst Arctic storm systems to hit a wide section of the country in years. It has gone from dangerous now to deadly.
Minnesota's wind chills could be as low as 50. That's 50 below.
Sudden snow bursts and icy conditions turned a Cincinnati highway into a death trap. Whiteout conditions blinded drivers before this 86 vehicle pileup.
Never seen like it in my life. I called my boss, freaking out. I called my wife. It was worst thing I ever seen.
It was 12 below zero when a Minnesota snowplow driver found a snowmobiler who'd been missing since Saturday.
He looked like he was frozen. I mean, he looked severely frozen.
The vicious winds caused plenty of property damage. The gusts were so powerful, chunks of ice at least a foot thick blew off of Wisconsin's Lake Winnebago.
And residents who've been living here along the shores of Lake Winnebago their whole lives tell me they've never seen anything quite like this.
In Michigan, the Pontiac Silverdome under renovation appears to be damaged after snow and windstorms hit the Detroit area. And in Utah, a frozen water pipe on a hillside may have sent a giant boulder into a woman's home. It struck her bedroom at 3 in the morning, and she needed emergency surgery.
With her jaw wired shut, I'm probably not going to get the full story for a couple of weeks.
As the storm blows across the Northeast today, New England is bracing for up to a foot of snow. Up to 3 feet fell on upstate New York.
Cyclone-strength winds and torrential rain are tonight continuing to batter a stretch of Queensland's coastline, almost 1,800 kilometres long. Communities from Cooktown to the border are being affected by the remains of ex-tropical cyclone Oswald, which is slowly gaining strength. Hundreds of people are stranded at Ingham.
The big chill, 133 million Americans in this together. Wisconsin, Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C. doing anything we could to stay warm. It was so cold today, the Great Lakes had a wind chill of -40, which feels colder than the North Pole.
This is the real deal, the polar air. This is New York.
at the centre of the city, and it's been so cold there that water coming out of one of the fountains freezes.
More than a dozen states have winter weather advisories, with major cities in the Midwest either near or below zero on Tuesday.
And for most of the country, it's a sudden and drastic change. In Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a balmy 51 degrees Saturday. Less than 48 hours later, it was 2 degrees below zero, a temperature swing of more than 53 degrees.
The wind is just ripping. It makes it 10 times worse than it should be.
A fire at an ice-covered warehouse in Chicago has rekindled 2 days after the large blaze first began. Firefighters were forced to return to the fully engulfed icy building to battle the aggressive fire once again. It comes after the extremely cold weather caused hydrants and hoses to freeze.
13 states, 91 million Americans are facing a weekend of treacherous cold, ice, and snow, and this is how it looks. This week, Arctic air washing down over this country in waves, wave after wave.
Queensland is again a state of disaster as an intense low-pressure system continues its destructive advance towards southeast Queensland. This afternoon, 3 tornadoes struck near Bundaberg, smashing Bargara, where a disaster has been declared. A disaster declaration has also been made at Gladstone, where a metre of rainfall has forced the evacuation of communities as dams spill over.
Severe rains have caused dangerously high sea levels along large parts of the southern African coastline over the past few days.
As many as 40 people were killed when torrential rains in South Africa and Zimbabwe swelled the Limpopo River. At least 150,000 people have been displaced by the deluge.
And government officials fear things will get worse if the rains continue.
For many, living in southeastern Queensland is becoming an endurance test, recovering from one natural disaster just in time to deal with the next. The latest storms and floods sweeping across the state of parts of northern New South Wales have seen at least 3 people die, hundreds rescued and thousands of residents ordered to evacuate, and more than 200,000 homes without power.
And once again, you talk about a 100-year flood. Ipswich is suffering the 1 and 2 flood every 2 years.
The rain is getting heavier in Sydney tonight, with the worst of the wild weather yet to come.
Now to the Sunshine Coast, where big waves and rough seas have caused a build-up of foam along a beach at Alexandra Headland. The foam has blanketed nearby roads and even made its way into some people's homes.
People have been down on the beachfront all morning watching this vision. It's just incredible to see. The waves have brought up foam right up across the road. It's coming across the road into resorts now and as you said, people's homes.
Oh, I couldn't believe it. Never seen anything like this. I've lived here for about 4 years, but no, never seen anything like this in my life.
I just can't believe the extent of how it's going into people's houses, and it's crazy. It's just crazy, but it's a little bit scary too.
A 6.7 magnitude earthquake struck Chile. Buildings were rattling as the first quake.
A 6.7 magnitude earthquake has shaken central Chile.
We've got debris now flying to the left and center of this system. Sirens have been going off here. The wind is kicking up along with the rain. Again, a funnel just crossing the interstate here in Adairsville.
Scientists think it was an EF2 or greater, with wind speeds more than 125 miles an hour.
This sinkhole in Guangzhou City swallowed a whole building complex on Monday. The ground first gave way at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then there was a further landslip later, which claimed another 3-story building.
Britain's top health chief, Professor Dame Sally Davis, has warned that we're looming towards an antibiotics apocalypse, and the fact that bacteria is becoming increasingly resistant to current drugs, coupled with the fact that we're running low on supplies, poses, she says, a bigger threat than global warming.
powerful earthquake measuring 6.9 hit Japan late on Saturday night near the town of Orihiro in the north of the country and was preceded by an early warning broadcast on TV and radio.
A tsunami alert has just been issued in the South Pacific after a magnitude 8.0 earthquake struck just northeast of Australia in the Solomon Islands. There have since been a series of powerful aftershocks that have hit the area. According to the U.S. Tsunami Warning Center, sea levels tonight indicate that a tsunami was in fact generated by this very large earthquake. But again, an 8.0 magnitude earthquake has struck in the South Pacific tonight. It has triggered a tsunami watch for, among other places, Samoa, New Zealand, Australia, Indonesia, and the U.S. territory of Guam.
Putting on a fiery show like you've never seen before. A team of photographers capturing an incredible display in eastern Russia. 4 volcanoes they found were erupting at the same time, just over 100 miles apart.
Nobody's ever seen anything like this. 4 different volcanoes, 4 completely separate eruptions happening at the same time. Unprecedented.
An unprecedented upsurge in porpoise, dolphin and whale strandings along the west coast. In the last 10 days, over 20 dead dolphins and 3 whales have been washed ashore.
The Irish Whale and Dolphin Group says the recent upsurge in beachings is certainly a cause for concern. Over the last 10 days, sightings of the dead sea mammals have been flooding in.
Well, it's unprecedented, really, to have so much in such a short period of time.
Something going wrong on the earth right now. Nobody's saying anything. That one spot, I've had hundreds of megaquakes/earthquakes. Right now, as we speak, since the past 9 days, since January 30, 2013, one spot on the earth. 8.0, 7.0, 6.8, 6.5, 6.4, 6.2, 6.1, 5.6, 5.0. Hundreds! The earth shall what? Reel to and fro. What do you mean reel? Let me tell you what's the meaning of reel. Reel is to move around in one place. Reel is to be rocked and rocked and rocked from anywhere, but in one place. You're going to move from a quake and a shake to a split, to a slice, to a dividing asunder.
The nor'easter that immobilized more than 40 million Americans this weekend.
Why this snowstorm paralyzed some of the most heavily populated areas of this country.
At one point, the storm forced every road in the state to shut down.
Boston was one of the areas hardest hit and record-making here. It was the 5th largest snowfall
on record in weather history.
And to give you a sense of the power of this storm, the winds were as strong as a Category 1 hurricane with gusts up to 83 miles an hour.
So again, this is not one but two storms joining together. The airspace is pretty much shut down.
An emergency declaration. This was a record-breaking storm throughout the state.
Responsible for taking at least 9 lives.
The extreme weather slamming the country, tornadoes tearing the south, a new blizzard developing.
This is perhaps an extraordinary event that we are watching unfold here.
You have signs down, you have power lines down, the power poles are snapped, there's debris all over the place. There are cars in the middle of the road, there are cars upside down.
The 15 tornadoes were reported in that one line. This was on the ground, long-running, long wedge-shaped tornado.
And it was one tornado warning after another. They just kept coming. All of a sudden, the sky went dark, and then came the sound of terror, like giant tornadoes screaming through town.
I've never heard it like that. It's hugely loud.
By the time the tornado hit Hattiesburg, residents say it looked a mile wide.
This is not minor damage, just as significant damage.
Benedict XVI is going to resign. Pope Benedict will step down as head of the Catholic Church at the end of February the 28th. That is according to a Vatican spokesman. He is due to leave his ministry at 8 p.m. on February the 28th. No reason has come into us as yet as to why this resignation is happening. We still do not have any confirmation at all as to the reason for this.
The information is very sketchy. It's really not something that's very usual. And but what is very, very interesting is he's actually chosen to resign. As we were just saying, that is incredibly unusual. One in history that we can think of for a pope to step down. It doesn't happen. Absolutely. So there must be a very big dramatic reason for this.
Pastor, I have to say there was no speculation in weeks gone by that anything like this might be about to unfold. There hasn't been a story quite like this in the many centuries of the reporting of events at the Vatican, certainly not in modern times. We're hearing, though, in the last 20 minutes or so that the Pope, speaking in Latin, made this extraordinary announcement that he would step down.
They quote a statement from the Vatican saying, "For this reason, and well aware of the seriousness of this act, with full freedom, I declare that I renounce the ministry of Bishop of Rome, successor of St. Peter."
I'll show you some extraordinary pictures which came to us from the Vatican on what was, of course, an extraordinary day. Within hours of Pope Benedict announcing that he was to resign, take a look at this. Lightning struck St. Peter's Basilica. You can see it again now in slow motion. Extraordinary. It happened just before 6 o'clock in the evening, local time.
A sign from God. Just hours after the Pope announced his surprise resignation, the heavens over Rome opened and the top of St. Peter's Basilica was struck by lightning.
Some breaking news this hour. People in the Urals in Russia have seen burning objects raining down from the sky after a meteorite exploded above the Earth, causing a meteor shower. Eyewitnesses reported several blasts rocking the region, and there's long trails of smoke in the air. Well, remember, imagine you're driving to work on a beautiful, calm Friday morning, and suddenly a massive fireball appears out of nowhere in the sky. You're thinking to yourself, is this a plane crash? Is this a rocket attack? A UFO? But when it comes to the Urals region and Chelyabinsk, the city in Russia, it's actually a meteor shower. This is what took place this morning. Really stunning images that you're seeing there right now. Now, what we know from officials, according to officials and eyewitnesses,
is that a series of explosions, possibly 5 to 6, took place when this meteor exploded in the air, raining down molten hot debris onto the ground. Now, this has caused widespread panic in at least 3 cities. Witnesses reported the walls of houses shaking, windows being blown out, cell phones even reportedly stopped working in some areas. There has been some concern about potential small injuries at a school, unconfirmed, so some schools are reportedly being evacuated. We're also hearing that a zinc factory was hit by a piece of the meteor, but no leaks reported so far. The biggest issue right now is the falling debris and the smoke, the black smoke that people are reporting that is hanging in the air. So very, very shocking. One interesting fact of note is that the world is closely watching another meteor that's supposed to graze past the Earth later on this evening. That's the size of an Olympic-sized swimming pool. This is an unrelated incident.
On the ground, chaos as fragments slammed into Earth. Witnesses say they thought a war had broken out.
It streaked across the Siberian sky and smashed into the Earth with the power of an atomic bomb, injuring more than 1,000 people, mostly from broken glass.
Coincidence, Earth has had its closest encounter with a large asteroid in living memory this morning. The 45-metre asteroid skimmed past Earth just 27,000 kilometres away, but it's a record close call.
But that's closer than some of our orbiting satellites.
Well, it has certainly been a strange 24 hours for things coming at us from space. The giant asteroid that came close to Earth, the meteor that exploded in Russia, and now tonight's breaking news, a meteor streaking across the Bay Area sky.
Reports are coming in from around the Bay, but mostly on the peninsula. A bright blue light streaking across the western sky at around 7:40 tonight.
Because it was mighty bright up there in the sky. I've seen plenty of meteors over the years, and I don't recall seeing one with such a tail and for quite as bright, I guess, of a light as this particular one was.
You can see this wave of green moving up from the peninsula also into the North Bay. That's a sign of some of that unusual activity in the atmosphere. This is not fog.
An NBC6 viewer was in the right place at the right time when a meteor was passing overhead. This is video of that meteor as it happened. And reports of similar sightings happened all across the state, from Jacksonville all the way down to Key West.
Witch's brew of weather is marching across the country. Arctic air, snow, ice, even the threat of tornadoes. 30 million people, 19 states from Arizona to Illinois are in the storm zone.
Gold Coast beaches have been battered with big seas carving away at the coastline, causing the worst erosion the tourist city has seen in years.
All Gold Coast beaches were closed for a third day. The pounding surf is stripping away sand. Dunes at Miami are collapsing.
Violent thunderstorms and torrential rains have caused chaos across much of southern Europe. In Italy, the Sicilian city of Catania was turned into a raging river with strong waters carrying away vehicles. Some 50 litres of rain per square metre fell in just half an hour.
A giant sinkhole or crack or fissure or landslide, we don't know, that happened on State Highway 89 about 5 o'clock this morning. Apparently, the earth just sunk at this point about 5 or 6 feet right on the highway here. We're also told that throughout the morning, it's actually been getting worse. There have been other drops in the earth here.
Heavy rain and damaging winds have begun battering parts of northern New South Wales, where residents are on flood watch.
Right now it is impacting with rain and thunderstorms, hundreds of kilometres of coastline stretching from Byron Bay down towards Taree. We've had wind speeds of around 126 kilometres.
Sydney has been smashed by savage storms with hundreds of homes damaged. The wild weather has stretched from Kiama on the south coast to Kempsey and Grafton in the north.
Thousands of residents in Western Australia's Pilbara region are being warned to stay inside as severe tropical cyclone Rusty edges towards land. Winds will reach up to 250 kilometres an hour when Rusty makes landfall tonight or early tomorrow. Torrential rain and massive storm surges are expected.
Are we in the time, the season, the moment in time where some of this prophecy is being fulfilled right in front of our eyes? Wars and rumors of war. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be earthquakes in various places. And there will be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. In fact, I am alarmed at what I see. I have never seen the global atmosphere so charged, so uncertain, so tenuous as it is now. But what we're seeing is this inundation of earthquakes, and we're getting 7-point-something on the Richter scale almost on a weekly basis. I've never seen that before. I mean, yeah, we get one or two of these things, but not every week, and not all over the planet. And we go back to that prophecy, earthquakes in various places. We're seeing these